Badger don't care. Honey Badger don't give a shit. It just takes what it wants.
I'm really going to laugh about that intro every single time.
I think you are.
I am. I just don't know why I like that so much. But anyway, hi, welcome to the Anger Podcast, episode number 1.
I thought it was the Hangover Podcast. It might be in the wrong place.
Yeah, no, it is.
Oh.
So for longtime listeners, you know that this used to be the Rolling Bad Podcast. We are rebranding. We are changing. We are now Anger, which is Albuquerque Narrative Gamers. The change was made for a bunch of reasons we'll get into later, but because it is episode 1, it's probably a good idea to intro ourselves quickly again so that people know who they're dealing with. So you want to start, Josh?
Yeah, sure. My name is Josh. I've only been in the hobby for like 8 years, I think.
Yeah,
going on 8 years next year. And in varying hobbies. I mean, I've been a gamer since I was a kid, but I really only got into models within the last 8 years. And before that, it was video games, Magic, some Pokemon, a lot of card games. But I've been into strategy games for a long time. And so it was really fun to start getting into the models. Started with AOS. It was my first model game. And as we talk about more in this show, it's expanded over the years. A little bit about me. I'm a lawyer. I specialize in trial practice and criminal law. I am not a civil attorney or a family attorney. I hate those things. I do not want to deal with divorces and child custody.
I was going to say, you're not going to help me with my divorce? Damn it.
No. I just try rapists and murderers.
Oh, well, the fun stuff.
The fun stuff, yeah. When you watch that, episode of SVU and you're like, what happens after, this gets sent to the courts? Not what happens in the show, I'll tell you that, because trials don't work that way. But I'm a prosecutor, and I won't state where because my opinions are my own. But I've been a defense attorney and a prosecutor in my career, and I've been a lawyer about as long as I've been in the hobby. So those two things might have sort of coincided.
Wow. Okay.
I actually started getting a paycheck, and I was like, oh, I can buy toys. Yeah, but it's long and short for me. I mean, we'll get more into our my specific interests and stuff later, but that's a little rundown of who I am.
Cool.
Who are you, Bill?
Nobody. Just some schlub that bought recording equipment. I am Bill Costello. I am the former person who used to run the narrative events out at LVO. Don't do that anymore. It's a little too hard to transport all the stuff cross country. So handed that off. Been in the hobby, honestly, since, GW was just starting off. It's been a long road with them, both with them and BattleTech. Back in the battle days of BattleTech and Games Workshop stuff, it's been one heck of a great ride. No aspersions to cast about any of that stuff. Been building models, playing war games. The origin of my hobby was war games, Hex Encounter war games. God, thousands of those. And, naturally, once you see something like Rogue Trader, you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. And so you buy into it, and, it's been an evolution across time. And, these days I'm branching out into a heck of a lot more games, not just the GW Ecosphere, which is kind of the reason for the new show and the new branding.
Yep.
But, it's just been a hobby journey all along the way. It's been fun. It's been a blast. And hoping to share that with all of you. So why are we doing a new show?
Interestingly enough, I think it sort of generated from a comment we had received at one point. But, we were so hardcore into AOS. That was originally what you were doing, was AOS, right?
Yeah.
And I came on after Elric had left the show, sort of like reinvigorated ourselves and started pushing forward on that. And we were really into the narrative stuff. But over time, it started to not hold the same luster. And Bill and I both started branching out into different things. I mean, like, hell, Bill twisted my arm into getting into Conquest and started branching onto other games. And I was like, as I started reading more and more about other war games as we were doing the show, personally, I was like, everything else is super cool too. Why are we just focused on this one thing? And as we were continuously covering the story of AOS, if we want to call it that, we found it just kept doing the same thing over and over again. We had like amazing stuff, like when we covered Broken Realms, we were so stoked for what that would mean,
God, yes.
How's it going to change the world? And then like it didn't. Like nothing was different. Nagash was still Nagash. He just like cried in a corner for like 2 months before they pumped out his next book, right? And it happened again with the next edition, and it kept happening and kept happening. Yeah, it's still cool. We still love AOS and 40K and all those things. But since we started to expand and sort of whet our appetites on all these other games, we were like, you know what? We can't just focus on the one thing anymore, because our personal hobby journeys have been taking us to other places, and we didn't want to sit there anchored to AOS only.
Yeah.
Right. So that way we could, share amongst a lot of different things. I mean, looking at the Discord, a lot of folks are getting into Conquest. Folks have gotten to BattleTech because, Bill's rantings about how much BattleTech he's painted. And he'll tell you about that later.
Yes, I will.
And then us talking about Conquest and how cool it was and seeing all these different companies doing great work, putting out great product. And, we, in essence, if we were tied to the AOS thing as an AOS only podcast, we couldn't talk about it, in a way that was appreciable. So now it's going to be all our hobby. Of course, with a little fun stuff, always for the After Dark Patreons.
Of course.
So that's where we're coming from. And it's us having adventures through different game systems. And, you're going to see us flub it all up as we go through it.
Oh, God. Yeah. The one thing I can say is I could think that we are both sort of experts in AOS. I think we can hold our own in that arena without a problem. With Infinity and Conquest and you name it, Oathmark and all these different games, we're noobs. We're going to be noobs. And that's why we're going to be introducing some new segments to the show.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, in this show, you're going to hear the first one. It's a getting started segment, how to get started. And this is from people that just got started.
Yeah.
So is it the world's best advice? Probably not. Is it appropriate? Most likely.
It's a true new player experience.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be with the getting started segments. It's like, we are getting started.
Yeah.
We're not telling you how to get started.
Right.
We're getting started, and here's how we're doing it.
This is what we did, and you can learn from our experience or our mistakes, whichever one is appropriate to you. But we're going to tell you what we did. And it'll be fun, trust me. And we're going to do hobby segments, which is really weird on a podcast to talk about in-depth hobby, but we'll approach it in a way that is audio friendly. However, you will have to stay tuned because there will probably be some YouTube content that we generate for this that will go out on this same feed, so that you can, if we are doing something crazy hobby oriented, we'll try to show it.
Yeah. I've been looking into getting the types of setups where I could have my phone over my painting desk and be able to, like record videos, or, maybe we can even do some live stuff with Discord at the very least, as we chat and go through things. So it's going to be much more engaging, much more expansive. And like, we're not just going to sit here and be like, hey, I painted the thing. Yeah. It's going to be, here's how I painted the thing. And
here's the thing I painted and how.
Yeah.
And if you're expecting, Ben Comet / Sam Lenz / name an amazing painter, you're not going to get that.
No.
You're going to get what we did.
Like my thing is I don't paint to that high level for like competition purposes. I paint to get my models on the table, and so they'll look good from 2-3 feet away.
Yeah.
I just want them tabletop ready, and so sometimes it's a lot of slap chop. Sometimes it's just using washes and contrast and speed paints and stuff like that to just get it good enough. And then what we're hoping to do is and it's going to start slow because we don't have Hollywood level camera equipment or anything around here. Start doing like battle reports, but more like at first it'll be more photographic, taking shots of before and after movement, that kind of thing.
Right.
As we go through our various games.
Yeah, you'll get your PowerPoint fix here.
Yeah.
We'll whoop those slides on you. Kidding. But, honestly, that's going to be what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
there are some, amazingly good bat rep channels out there who have invested the big dollars in Hollywood quality equipment. And to try to jump into that niche, I think is silly because it's already been done and it's well done. Ours are going to be a little bit different. They're going to give you the idea and what we were doing and what we were thinking. And that'll be where it, in-depth analysis of the games will be strictly us talking about the game.
Yeah.
So, and you'll be able to laugh at all the dumb mistakes we make. It'll be fun. Trust me.
Yeah. And I think doing sort of the post commentary, right, type thing as we were going through what we did in the game, we'll be able to point out our mistakes too that we may not have recognized in those moments.
Yep.
So it'll teach us and teach all of you, because this is about hobby. We're not experts in the sense that like we're trying to be competitive at tournaments or competitive at painting. We are just two guys who happen to have a few extra dollars for toys, and we want to enjoy our toys with everyone.
Right.
And so we'll be bringing that energy to it.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. And, that's pretty much the mission of the show, is to share the hobby journey with you and show you that there's more out there than you might know. And, the actual, if you want to call motivation, the idea behind all this stuff is, Guerrilla Miniature Gaming, Ash Barker up there in Canada land, who he prides himself in taking a look at all the other different games that are out there. And, even in the BattleTech idea, there's so many different mech games out there that are akin to, but not necessarily BattleTech. And they're fun. They are a blast. And, it's the same thing I love for rank and flank games. I love Conquest.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. But Oathmark it's easier. It's quicker to get on the table, set up and moving, and it should get some coverage. It should get some love in different places. And so, yeah, you're going to hear about Oathmark here because it's fun. It's really good. I'm not going to say there's anything wrong with Conquest, because Conquest is a blast, and they're blazing new trails, and the stuff that's coming out now from them is off the hook.
Oh, they're sculpting, the quality of their plastic, the quality. I mean, like some of the old kits. Oh man, you could tell the growing pains.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the sprues would connect at like cylindrical marks, right? Yes. And it was the absolute worst to clip and clean, but they're actually working on fixing or changing those sprues so they're more modernized with better detail.
Yeah.
They're blazing trails. And in terms of their sculpting, the detail that they have on their models now is mind-numbing.
Yeah, they're just crazy, especially when you can start issuing out artisan sculpted models that work across two different factions in your range because they're that well done, they're that well executed. You've really nailed something. And it should be out there. It should be talked about, it should be discussed and shown, because it is a great alternative to the old world, which has zero interest for me. I don't know. It's not that it's a bad game. I am just not interested in another 300-page rule book filled with GW isms.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying GW isms are bad, because I'll turn around and talk about Kill Team and the new Underworlds and how good they are. So, and 40K is not a bad rule set. It might be it might need some tweaks, and same thing with AOS, but these aren't bad rules. No. They're just, sometimes you get tired of the GW ecosphere.
Yeah. I think one thing that'll be fun too is that, since we're expanding hobby and all that stuff, Bill's going to be able to teach me some of the games he's ranted about for so long. I've never played BattleTech before, but...
Oh, you're gonna?
Yeah. And who knows, maybe I'll convince Bill to play my new Hyperfixation Trench Crusade.
I'm, like I said, I'm interested just because of John Blanche, but it didn't hook me right off the bat, but I'm definitely willing.
I'll be ranting about that after dark.
Nice.
A little bit in the main show, but yeah, we're going on a journey, right? Like when you're hobbying, I think you wrote it in Latin, but
yes,
victory is a journey, not a destination, right? And that's what the hobby is. It's a journey, and our journey has taken us from strictly AOS to all these different systems, and we're going to share it with you.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Trust me. So we're going to take a quick break to get some food, and then we're going to jump into what would normally be our new releases segment, but because we've been offline for so many months, it's going to be a catch-all of, oh my God, did you see what happened? So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The world has gotten even stranger than you already know.
At this point, I doubt anything would surprise me.
$10 says you're wrong.
Okay, so we're going to move into new stuff that's happened since we last recorded, which was episode 167 of the Rolling Bad podcast, which is now defunct. So much has happened in these last 3-4 months. It's not even funny. In the GW world, the new Kill Team hit, and have to say, wow, really good. Really good rule system, and also baking in a solo/co-op mode.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. They're actually looking at how the world works and going, we could do that. So, of course, it does mean that you take your library of Kill Team books and toss them, hopefully recycle them, and you start buying the new stuff, because it's almost required to buy the new stuff, which shocking, GW forcing you to buy new stuff.
Who would have thought?
I personally wouldn't have. But
yeah, I mean, those books are now as good as, putting them under the table so it doesn't wobble anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you like looking back nostalgically. I mean, I'm not that guy, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people are taken to it. Just even, like groups of people that I know who weren't really into that stuff are like, oh yeah, I just bought the new Kill Team box.
Yeah, it's they're doing a really good job with lessening the impact and how much it hurts to go to the new edition, but there's still an impact. I mean, all of your old stuff is now trash. None of the models are in any way, shape, or form affected, but you need all new cards, or you download, amazingly, the free sets of stuff, because they're only producing X amount of cards, and if you don't get them, well, you have to use the online version. So they did the exact same thing with the Middle-earth strategy battle game, except a lot more consternation here, because they took a majority of the model line and said, yeah, no more. These guys don't exist. I mean, they exist, but we're not going to be making them.
Yep.
And here's the rules, and those particular rules will not be updated. This is the end of that. And obviously they are constrained by the fact that it's one of the few IPs that they are into that they don't own.
Yeah.
And so they're only allowed to do what is within their license. And since War of the Rohirrim is coming up on, what was that, Apple or Amazon?
Amazon, I think.
Okay, Amazon. Obviously they are limited by what's there. That's why the Middle-earth strategy game box set is Rohirrim versus the Hillmen, because that's what you're going to see in season 1.
Yep.
So, and I'm fine with that as long as they leave, the Mordor, the Minas Tirith, the Saruman, the Uruk-hai, all of that stuff stays.
Yeah.
It's that weird outlying stuff that has gone away. Luis was telling the story about Peter Jackson when he was doing The Hobbit, really calling GW and going, so we're going to have a really big Smog model, right? We're going to have that really big dragon, available. And they were like, yeah, no. And he was like, why do you hate money?
Yeah.
This is the crux of this show. These 3 movies center around this dragon, and you're not going to make him? Okay. Y'all are weird.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they didn't do a plastic Smog, but they didn't. So, oh hum.
God, they would sell them so much more if they did.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of, what was it, like 10 pounds of resin or something?
Yeah, my Smog is up there. I mean, he is huge.
Yep.
He is heavy. He is Forge World, so that means bubbles and parts that don't fit and just general low quality compared to what everyone else is doing with resin these days. And, annoying to build.
Yeah.
He's built now. I just have to start painting him, but I'm a loser. So...
Not even. I mean, that is definitely an airbrush job.
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time.
Massive model. massive,
it's
beautiful,
huge.
but massive.
Huge.
Yeah, it's definitely if they could just take that and do it in plastic, one, save a lot of money.
Yep.
Two, a lot more people would buy it.
Oh yeah.
Like even if you're selling that, what does it go for? It's like $1,000-ish now.
Oh
I
yeah.
think for Smog.
For on the
But if you did it in plastic, you could probably sell it for what, like 3, 4? Still
that'd
make
be
money.
an easy $200 kit, and you'd sell out of them all. Every run you did, you would sell out of.
100%.
But sliding that into the production schedule is probably next to impossible. So, because that would be a big mold.
Oh my God. Right. Yeah. The fact that they came out with the new edition of Middle Earth Strategy Battle Game, I was like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah.
I was a little out of it for a bit because I was mostly focused on Magic. I'll talk about that later. But God, it's such a good game. It's probably one of their best games.
It's widely regarded as one of the best miniatures rule systems out there.
Yeah.
Of any system. And honestly, from looking through the new book, I don't see a whole raft of changes. I am not as familiar as most Middle Earth strategy battle game players, but it doesn't seem to me to be a huge departure. The big controversy there was so many models going out of the range.
Yeah.
And sad, but oh well. Again, you have to do SKU management sometimes. And if you can no longer produce these models, there's no point in having them in the line. So get rid of them.
Yeah.
Okay. It happens. Rip the Band-Aid off and move on with your life. It's not the end of the game.
No.
0 people are going to come to your house and make you get rid of your books. So you can still play the game. Which, I think something is really lost on a lot of people that were like, 9th edition 40K was the absolute best. Okay, keep playing it.
Yeah.
No one is going to yell at you. No one, except your mom.
Yeah.
She'll be like, get your butt down here. And you'll be like, I need a Hot Pocket. But anyway.
She'll be like, you're a grown man. Why are you still playing toys in the basement?
Yeah, because it's fun.
Why don't you get out and play 10th edition? Like, no, I'm kidding.
Exactly. Like your father and me.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, mom. Mom. I don't need to hear
You're
that.
stuck in the past. You need to grow up.
In the next new, oh my God, holy hand grenades, Infinity N5.
Dropped Monday.
Monday it dropped. The rules are live. The army builder is live. It has some bugs. Don't sweat it. It's still completely usable. There's some little niggling things that aren't, give them a week. It'll be fixed. Well, it's Christmas. Don't give them 3 weeks and it'll be all good. But the N5 lore book dropped, and we're going to do a getting started segment specifically on how to get into N5. So we're not going to crazy cover it here, but man, good line. In the Battletech world, the Mercenary Kickstarters have shipped. Some controversy over when it was available retail versus when everyone got fulfilled on the Kickstarter. A lot of people got their Kickstarters after it was on the store shelves. There were some embargo issues that were ignored by certain stores who were told not to sell the product until a certain date, and they did anyway. So obviously a Kickstarter that big, in the $7 to $8 million range, or no, it was more than that, I think. But there's going to be hiccups. Product wise, everything that was delivered was off the hook cool. And they're moving on now. The Hotspots in the Hinterlands book just dropped. It is such a good book. Even if you don't like the Ill Clan era, it's such a good book to have because of the mercenary contract system that's in it, which is a really nice, friendlier way of doing the campaign with consequences.
Yeah.
So if you run out there and get all your lances killed, it's going to be painful to put them back together.
Yeah.
And play them again. So yeah, super good book, super hot.
And that Battletech is just so accessible now. I mean, I was just at Barnes & Noble a couple days ago, and the amount of product they carry, if you want to get started in the game, if you're really interested in it, it's mind-numbing. They had 4 different boxes. One's a true starter box, but they're all, sort of the bigger size. And then they had the expansions, so if anyone's looking to get into that as a starter, like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And
with Alpha Strike, those people that are like, oh, Battletech takes 6 hours to do 2 models per side. It is. It's an intensive game if you play full up Battletech. if you play Alpha Strike, it's the modern version of BattleTech. I don't want to say for the non-neckbeards, but there's a certain kind of people that play full up BattleTech, and it's a ton of fun. And the amount of rules dwarfs any GW system. Even at their worst, it's mind-numbingly much larger. The Alpha Strike system is, I will literally teach you Alpha Strike in 5 minutes, and then we will play a game and just have a blast. And then we can start adding on all the other modules so that it can become a full BattleTech experience. And it's just that easy.
Beautiful.
So easy. Speaking of easy, Halo Flashpoint hit the world in several different editions, the Recruit Edition, Spartan Edition. What I truly love is if you didn't do the Kickstarter to get Master Chief is hidden behind the Army Painter Bespoke Halo paint set. So get ready to spend $50 on Master Chief, but you're getting a really cracking good set of paints with it, because the paint set is the new version, Warpaint Fanatics. So good. It's so worth it. I bought it just because. It's color match paints, which supplement the line rather than are duplicates. Halo Flashpoint as a game, we will probably cover it quickly because it's not that in-depth. Just imagine playing Halo on your Xbox, except on your table, complete with, here's your forces. Oh God, you killed my Spartan. Yeah, don't worry. He comes back in next turn.
Yeah.
He respawns.
Yep.
Okay. And, before the game starts, you actually put out the loot so that you can go and run to the loot. It uses the Mantic system of 3-inch squares. So you're not measuring movement. You're not doing anything like that. You're just going beep, 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 beep. And you're considered to occupy that square. And combat, super easy. It's seriously a fun beer and pretzel skirmish game. You can teach and play in an hour and honestly have a lot of fun. It's a good game. It's a good game. If you like Halo, if you're not familiar with Halo and the universe and what it's all about, it will probably seem very weird to you. So
takes me back to my Red versus Blue days. Oh God, that was such a fun show.
Oh God, yeah. So good.
Oh yeah. No, I mean the system looks clean, not simple, right? But easy to learn.
Yeah.
And if you just want to have that fun sort of flashback, play Flashpoint.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there.
Oh yeah. They did not pay me for this ad.
Wow. They're going to start, let me tell you. Anyway, we are seeking sponsors. Yes, we are. So I'm looking at you, Baron of Dice, Ares, Warsenal, all of you people that we talk about. Anyway, I'm just kidding. You don't have to, but you should. Conquest, in the world of Parabellum's Conquest.
Yep.
I could tell you about all the new rules changes for some of the factions and some of the basic system rule changes, but we'll save that for the Conquest show.
Yeah.
It is minor changes that are very significant to gameplay overall. The Nords got completely gobsmacked, changing their playstyle completely, and not for the worse. They're going to play a lot more like you think Nords should play, as opposed to the way I have been playing them. I've never lost with Nords. I say that now so that I can get my butt handed to me in every game going forward. But
like it's the new rule set. I swear it's.
But yeah, if you grokked how they played before, you have to unlearn that. It won't work anymore. It will lead to infinite death. So don't do it. But the model updates, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wowie, wow. On the 9th of January, there is going to be a Parabellum live stream where they're going to announce the next new faction for the game. And if it is the Death faction, I will be throwing all my stuff away so that I can get that. Not kidding. I'm not going to throw anything away.
Now you're just going to do the whole burning of your models like when AOS came out.
Yeah, I'm going to burn all my old elves.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have. Damn it. For Yule, my wife got me this great box of it's from Deathfields, the little miniatures from Deathfields, which is going to flesh out my 5 parsecs from home force, and love those models. Wish we could use those in other games. I wish they were more, but damn, they're just so good. So lovely models. Lovely. Anyway, way off on a tangent. You want to cover the quick on Trench Crusade?
Just a quick little bit on Trench Crusade. It is a really fun alternate history game that just launched. Also had a very successful Kickstarter, almost like 3.5 million from the Kickstarter. Model agnostic game. It's set in World War I, and the story is that during the Great Crusades, the Templars accidentally unleashed hell on Earth. And so all of history, they did a rewrite of history. So major events still occurred that had occurred in our history, but it was somehow tied to the demonic forces and heretic legions and stuff. And things get a little steampunky from there, but it's very Dark Souls inspired in terms of what the art looks like.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter they are sending folks models, but the STLs are going to be available for purchase. And I think my Mini Factory will be printing them up too. Amazing sculpts, but it's a very simple skirmish game.
Yeah.
Like the rules are not complex whatsoever.
No.
And like I read, and all the rules are free online. Like if you just look up Trench Crusade rules, it's all there. They have the playtest rules. They have the faction builder. They have everything that you could want if you just look it up. I'll get more into it later on, but it's coming pretty hard. It's a lot of people are super stoked about it.
This is not a flash in the pan kind of game. I think this is a game that's going to hit, and I can sum it up in 2 words: John Blanche. So here's, put your tinfoil hat on, get ready for the conspiracy theory. John Blanche is one of the movers and shakers for Trench Crusade. You can see his influence everywhere in the game. His art style it permeates the game. And you could do a lot worse because it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you look at the GW release for Deathcore of Krieg, and you look to yourself and go, John, did you influence that at all? Because boy, does this dovetail into Trench Crusade, which you are neck deep in. I hope it's a provable conspiracy that he did that on purpose or had a hand in making it happen, because that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the factions that you can use those models in, but my God, they're dead on and they are perfect. Yeah. So it's Trench Crusade is going to be a thing. We are going to be throwing some of that down, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I'll talk about it later, but that's just sort of a brief snapshot of some of the things that have happened in the last 2 months. We can't cover everything. That'd be the only show.
So much has happened. We're going to cover it in snippets as we go.
Yeah.
And but we're going to move on to hobby progress.
Oh, yes.
Would you like to go firster or seconder?
I'll go firster.
You can go firster then.
So I haven't done a lot of modeling.
What? Sorry.
And when I say modeling, of course, I'm talking about runway, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I was going to say, I expected to see you in Vogue, but guess not.
Last stuff I was really working on was the Dwegum. So that way we have an army for the show for Dwegum.
Traitor.
Hey, it was the one that between the two of us we didn't have yet.
Too true.
So that was the last stuff I was really working on there. After painting all my not completely defunct steel phalanx. Things have changed. We'll talk about in a minute. But I got so heavy back into Magic. We were talking about that a little bit before on the Rolling Bad before that ended.
Yep.
But I have been just building and testing decks. And one thing I really got heavy into is locally we have the 505 format, since that's, our area code, where it's $50 to build a deck.
Oh, wow.
No card can be more than $5 except for your commander, but you have to be $50 or less. So you can't just go all out, right? And one of the decks I made recently, which is it's a crime against humanity, I think, is there is a new elf that dropped in the Foundation's Jumpstart pack that she's insane. She's just flat out insane. So I built, she was, at the time I built it, because once you build it in our Discord, you snapshot it, right, from Moxfield and put it on there and say, okay, see, look, I'm under $50.
Yeah.
At the time I started building the deck, she was $18.
Wow.
She's kind of gone down a little and then back up.
Yeah.
But she just completely enables all elf ball strategies. And so I was able to build an elf ball deck in under $50. It was crazy.
I can't
super
wait
fun.
for the show that we do on Magic, getting started with Magic the Gathering, because I want to learn what all these terms you're using are.
We say elf ball. It's so elves produce a lot of mana, and they're usually very cheap. Like 1 to maybe 4 at most mana, but most of them are like 1 mana, right? And so the elf ball deck would be you slam down a bunch of elves and create elf tokens, so you have a very wide board of 1/1s essentially.
Yeah.
And then you cast a spell or play something that jacks them up, and then you just smash over everyone.
So you're playing elves with hordes. Okay.
Yeah, it's,
I like it.
and I think the joke came from is it Myr Battlesphere? Is a card that it's literally a giant ball of these little artifact creatures called Myrs that all just rolled together and started running at things, right?
Jesus.
And so that's the joke, is that it's a bunch of elves in a giant ball that you throw at people.
I love it.
It's great. But yeah, I was doing a lot of that. I built a CDH deck with CDH means competitive EDH or competitive commander, which is Timna Thrasios. For a while, there was a recent bannings in Commander that like upended some things, and they were just like cards that no one ever thought would really leave the format. So there's it was called Dockside Extortionist, and it's a red card. It's 1 colorless and 1 red mana to cast. When it entered, you would create treasure tokens equal to the number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents have. And treasure tokens are just simply you tap it and sacrifice it and add a mana of any color to your mana pool.
Ooh, nice.
And so it was just this hyper powerful card that enabled crazy strategies where like you'd make infinite mana combos with him. That got banned, and a lot of people were like, what the crap? Then they banned Jeweled Lotus, which it was made specifically for Commander. But I guess they just weren't thinking ahead to the fact that, like, a 0 mana artifact that you can tap and sacrifice for 3 mana of any one color to cast your commander was not overpowered.
Here's something that I do know about Magic, and that is any card that has Lotus in the name is overpowered and will eventually get banned.
Yeah, it's real strong. There's some that have survived. They're the very limited ones, like Gilded Lotus, which is like 5 mana to play it, so it's not very popular in competitive Commander.
Yeah.
But back when I played like 8 years or something ago, because I stopped playing Magic when I started playing AOS. Yeah. I mean, you only put the money somewhere, right? My favorite deck was Timna Thrasios, which, color identity, there's 5 colors plus colorless in Magic, if you're not aware. And so it's blue, green, black, and white. And there was a certain combo back then that is banned now. It's a hyper powerful combo, but that's the deck I was playing. And when I was getting back into it, everyone's like, well, you have to have red because Dockside Extortionist is a thing and everything else is underpowered. Well, that gets banned. All of a sudden I'm like, boys are back in town. And so this deck has been a passion project of mine. I'm trying to completely foil it out for the most part. There's some cards you can't get foils of.
Damn.
And then getting alternate arts where I can, full arts, all that kind of stuff. Because it's like, again, it's my favorite deck.
Sure.
And I found this, I'm not saying it's a legal card to play in a tournament setting, right? But someone did this custom art job of Timna, which is based off the Crane Wife myth from Japan.
Uh-oh.
And it's beautiful artwork. It shows, this girl, she has strings in her hand because, she would weave the gold, and the strings go into her chest and out her back, and you see it attached to her heart. And then you have these 2 cranes surrounding her. It's just mind-numbingly beautiful. I'll pull it up for Bill just so he can gawk at it a little bit himself. But so that deck I was able to finally put back together. I've been spending the money to get it to where I want it to be,
Yeah.
And I have made some other decks on the side just to sort of not have overpowered decks from when I play Friends,
Yeah.
Here, Bill, take a look at that.
Oh my God. Oh, that is crazy cool. Why didn't they use that for the card art?
I'm telling you.
God.
Yep. And it's
rocks.
the foiling on it is amazing. Like, it is a professional job. It's just so amazing. So I had some other decks. Well, I have a problem with not making powerful decks, but it's not a CEDH deck with Animar creature combo. I mean, I've made the deck so consistent that, like, I will get to my combo in like 3-4 turns.
Jeez.
It takes a little bit to build up, but like it gets there. And then a really fun one was the Lord of Pain, which is red, black, Rakdos colors. And it came out of the, I think it was the Duskmorn set that recently dropped. I made it so it's a horror movie themed deck.
God.
So like you've got like the Relentless Killer card, you've got Razorkin Needlehead, and I got the alternate art for that, which like it shows this girl's glasses reflecting the monster jumping at her. And it was just such a fun deck to make. And the Lord of Pain himself is really cool looking because it's 3 TVs, 2 eyes and a mouth, and this like giant hand that's pointing and all these like psychotic things running out. It is just not the most consistent. It's hard to get to put certain types of draw engines into red and black that you just can't get, that are not as quality as others. But just a fun deck, and it's what's it called, Group Slug. So the whole purpose of the deck is to tax people by hurting them anytime they try to do something. Like Razorkin Needlehead, anytime an opponent draws a card, they take 1 damage.
Oh Jesus, that's wrong. Oh my God.
You pair that with Cataract Parasite, which is, it's 1 black for that. If you control a red permanent, whenever an opponent draws a card, you can do 1 damage to them. So it just stacks and stacks and stacks on itself. I have similar things with like Shieldred, the Whispering one, which is anytime an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you want to play your deck, it's not going to be fun. And then there's ways that when I cast spells, I do damage to opponents and stuff like that. So it's just a fun concept because of the horror of playing your own deck. Can you survive the horror show?
We have to talk about fun.
Yeah.
What fun means. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. When you play at that level, that's how you play.
Well, I do play Magic the Gathering online with a few friends, usually once a week, once every 2 weeks. It's slowed down the last couple weeks of the holidays.
Oh, yeah.
But on that one, we all made a gentleman's agreement to only play pre-cons. Okay. So we each picked a pre-constructed deck and said, I'm playing this, no edits.
Okay.
It's been wild. Some of those games get out of hand.
Oh, I bet.
Because when you're just playing with what you got, like some of the decks are hyper strong, but then you just become the target. Like,
yeah.
The one I picked was red black, which I was like, it should be fairly controlled. Then I started looking through the deck. I just really like the face commander, which is the red black Valgavoth is what his name is, and it's from that horror set, right?
Oh, nice.
And then I start reading what all the abilities are, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm never gonna win because everyone's gonna take me out first. And that's what it's been a fight every time. I have not won, except with I didn't play with him. I played with another pre-con, but yeah, it's fun, and that's a fun way to get into Magic is the pre-cons. But we'll do that at the getting started for that. And then I got into another card game called Flesh and Blood. So Buddy Corey, friend of the show, he got me into it.
Yeah,
because it feels. Did you ever play Legend of the Five Rings?
Yeah,
like the old gun.
A little bit. Yeah.
It feels like the dueling mechanic, but that's the whole game.
Oh, okay.
It's super fun, and I got into it with this. Is it called the general? I can't remember exactly what the term is, but you have a character, and then they have slots for weapons, right? So you can have a 2-handed weapon or 2 one-handed weapons, depending on what you do. And then you've got like your armor that has an effect. I went with this gal named Dash IO, and she's a mechanologist is what they call them. And her whole thing is that, she can combo off the top of her deck and everything. There's not a lot of good draw in the game itself, right? Mm-hmm. Like they want to limit people drawing cards.
Okay.
Oftentimes the best you get is that she can play once per turn. If she's got a mechanologist item on the top of her deck, she can play it out, but she has to pay extra to do it.
Okay.
It's more replacement effects than it is drawing. And she just combos off like crazy. And then she builds up what they call steam counters on her gun because she's very steampunk. And then she just machine guns everyone down. It's hilarious. It's a fun game. That said, with Corey, I've been trying to gather together our respective L5R collections, right? Not the most recent one that had come out, but I'm talking like
the old sets,
like Gold Edition, Celestial Edition. We've been finding some stuff online too. And I was able to pull back quite a few cards from my collection. And I just honestly think it's the best card game ever made.
Really?
I really do. Everything about it is amazing. But we can do getting started on a dead game later, but I'll just rant about it later. But yeah, that's been my hobby. Now I am sort of repositioning myself, particularly with N5 dropping, because you know, I got the JSA not starter pack from the last edition.
Yeah.
What is it? The action pack.
Action packs.
So I got that. JSA is front and center in N5. They expanded their roster like crazy. We'll talk about it.
Yes, they did.
So that's sort of where I'm going to start leaning to. Plus, also getting the other armies ready for the podcast / videos.
Yeah.
So that's where I've been, Bill. But unlike me, you've been a painting.
A little bit here and there. A little nuts. So I'll start the lead here with I watched Louise's video on Gundam.
Mm-hmm.
On building Gundams, and then her adventure in placing second in the world with her painted model.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, not bad. Years and years and years ago, I had picked up a Gundam kit because I like models. I like building models.
Yeah.
And I hated that model with passion. It had a horrible set of instructions. They were so bad, it was not funny. And just, they were not where they're at now. I picked up a new kit, a $31 high grade, so HG Gundam kit, and was absolutely blown away how their press fit works. And it actually works. So gorgeous. On the same sprue, they have 3 different colors molded, so you have the red, the blue, and the yellow on one sprue.
Wow.
And then they have, there's a bunch of sprues, and just as a news flash, because there are so many sprues and you need to keep them separated, I was looking for a sprue holder on Thingiverse and, all the different 3D printing sites, Yegi and all those. And all the ones I found were either way over-engineered or just incredibly useless. And so I said, screw it. And I built a minimalist sprue holder for building Gundams, which I will put up on the Patreon for patrons to download and use if they so desire. One of the things that I really wanted was like a hell of a lot more space between the sprues so that if there was a leg armor or something at the bottom of the sprue, most of the sprue holders you wouldn't be able to put it into its slot because it was too wide. Mine is minimum of 15 millimeters wide, so it'll hold most parts. So, and it has a ton of slots. So I'll put that out there for the patrons.
Sweet.
Yeah, it'll be fun. But anyway, the new Gundams are the high grade kit is $31. So less than a Space Marine lieutenant. It is 3 times the size. Every single piece is detailed completely. Even the pieces that are under the armor are completely detailed. So if you want to do a diorama with half of his armor blown off, you're fine. Don't worry about it. You don't have to kit bash a thing. And just the way it goes together is so brilliant. So absolutely brilliant that I went and got a MG kit, which is master grade, which is not necessarily harder to build or more complex. The difference between the grades, the high grade, the master grade, and the perfect grades are usually like size. And when you get to the perfect grades, complexity and how much you get with them. With the high grade, for the painting parts of it, all you get is stickers. With the master grade, there's a lot of water slide decals. There's a lot of rub-on decals. There's a bunch of stickers. So it's amazingly well engineered. The instructions are all in Japanese, but because they're so much better at presenting it now, it's so easy to do. You don't even have to, you don't care because as long as you can follow the little numbers and letters that are on the sprues, you'll do just fine. It's easy. If I can do it, 61 years old, you can do it. Anybody can do it. So Gundam is fun. Do it. A crap ton of Battletech stuff, just an absolute metric shit ton. Mostly because with the Mercenaries wave, that friend of mine who doesn't have the use of his hands with any dexterity, he bought into it just the same level I did. And of course he literally cannot paint. He cannot, it's hard for him to even move stuff on the battlefield. So I went ahead and did, it was north of 100 mechs for him, as well as vehicles and helicopters and aircraft, which every single one that I'm painting, I'm like, I'm going to end up facing this across the table. Why am I doing this? But yeah, I got that all done for him. Plus, I have my own that I was doing. I did a little bit of work on my Nuns with Guns for Kill Team because, Kill Team is new and got to have something. I am noticing, and I don't know if anybody can back me up on this, and it may be completely anecdotal, and it may be that I just maybe primed too heavily, but I have noticed that like the Wraithbone spray and the Gray Seer, they can be very, very hydrophobic. They can actually react badly with GW contrast paints.
I noticed that too.
Okay. I was hoping I wasn't alone, or, and maybe it was just me over priming. So in that big project, I used up all the rest of all the Wraithbone that I had. And then was very annoyed and actually had to switch to speed paints because they worked just fine.
Yeah.
Whereas the contrast paints were literally bubbling up and separating from areas and being very hydrophobic. And I was like, this is GW's flagship product. I was shocked. And then I started seeing videos about how GW's been changing the formula of the paints, and even the color of the paints don't match what they used to be. And there's been no mention made of it, but they are making changes to the range for the worse.
Yeah.
So be careful if you use the GW primers, which are really quite good, but they can be annoying.
Yeah, that's why I've taken to doing more slap chop when I'm using GW contrast.
Yeah.
Because it takes better, I don't know if it's just the tension from the dry brush that allows it to stay, but
yeah,
I've had a hell of a time with Gray Seer personally, so I get you.
Yeah. So one thing that we've just started getting recently locally, now that there is a North American distributor for Color Forge primers, I was able to pick up some of those over at Etten Games and Hobbies in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and also I believe in Houston. Shameless free plug, but they can also feel free to sponsor us. The Color Forge primers are just, I understand why all the Brit folks use them. They're really good. And the colored primers, I have an issue with Army Painter spray primers that they're either so thick that a single coat will make your model look like a blob, or they're just not, they don't cover worth a damn. So I'm not a fan of the Army Painter spray paints until they reformulate those as well, which I'm sure they will do. But the Color Forge is a phenomenally good alternative to the GW primers, which are literally the new Leadbelcher primer with the red cap, with the red spray nozzle. Oh my God. So good. So good. Yeah, I really do. I know people think they're too expensive and all that stuff, but the Chaos Black, the new white, they're just so good.
Yeah.
So flipping good. And you don't have to overspray to get the coverage that you want. So good. But the Color Forge is a very, very good alternative. The other alternative is, of course, the Pro Acryl primer. They have the black, the white, and the gray. I guess they're not going to get into the colors, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be, because slap chop's a thing. But those are also, that matte black is a truly matte black. It's gorgeous. Really? It is gorgeous. Yeah, very good primers there. So if you need them, use them. That's about, I mean, like I did a ton of BattleTech stuff. I did 2 lances, one for me, one for the wife, so I could teach her Alpha Strike.
Cool.
Which actually went really, really well. And lest you people think that I'm invested in winning, I built her a Kurita 6-mech force, and I went up against it with my mercenary company 4-mech lance so that she could not only experience all the different weight classes and what they're capable of doing, but she could also pound my face into the ground, which she was able to do, which was a lot of fun, actually, because I think your first game should always be a win. That way you get that feeling of, oh yeah, this is fun. I like this.
I want to keep doing it.
I'm not that way in board games with her, but I am that way in miniatures games.
You Mario Kart her in board games? Is that what it is?
Kind of. Yeah, kind of. I just, maybe I am too competitive. But let's take a quick break, and we're going to move on to our new segment about getting started with Infinity N5.
You see, for my part, I look upon a promise as binding. Promise was never occurred to me.
I command the kingship, not a private yacht. We do not have time for your damned hobbies, sir.
Okay, here we are ready to start our journey into Infinity N5. This is the newest, latest, greatest version of Infinity from Corvus Belli, and it is everything you imagine Infinity to be. It is overly complex, poorly worded, incredibly fun, and a hoot to play. Mm-hmm. And the models are all metal with all that entails, which means they have great table feel. They feel like they're models, and they're somewhat hard to clean up and prep, but they go together. Corvus Belli has knocked metal modeling out of the park. Mm-hmm. They don't include instructions with any of their metal models, because honestly, if you can't build the model, you have no hope of playing the game. Okay, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah,
I just mean that maybe you should consider an alternate hobby like Lego. And I'm not gatekeeping here. This is all about how to get started with Infinity. And
we're just getting started with Infinity.
That's right. We took a quick dabble into it with N4, found out that N5 was right around the corner, and said, well, let's put the brakes on and just approach the new edition as new and as new people. And I think that's going to reap rewards for everyone. Mm-hmm. We're not going to give out bad info about the game. With the difference between N4 and N5, we're just going to learn it fresh. And so with our getting started segment, we're going to start off with some suppliers that you're going to need to know. First of all, of course, your friendly local game store.
Yep.
Hit them up. Tell them you want them to carry all the Infinity N5 stuff you've ever seen, so that they'll buy, an eighth of it and sell it to you. Of course, you can go to the Corvus Belli main site.
Yep.
If you are in the U.S., there is a site called Warsenal. Mm-hmm. It's I will put the link to the store in the show notes, but it's basically warsen.al, and that's your website.
Heyo.
And that is your headquarters for Warcrow, Infinity.
Yep.
Terrain for all of the above. The people there are off the hook, amazingly cool.
Yeah.
With all of the problems that happened with N5 and the pre-orders, I was getting emails weekly from them saying, here's where everything is. Here's the holdup. Corvus Belli hasn't shipped yet. And there were issues over there where they're from. They had issues with strikes and production delays, and they didn't get their product at the time they wanted, and blah, blah, blah. So, but Warsenal kept me completely aware of what the process and the level of apologeticness, which is probably not a word, but as bad as they felt about, these are November pre-orders, and I literally got them in the middle of December. Well, they felt really bad about that, but there was nothing they could do.
No.
Yeah, they are a great, great bunch of folks. Go talk to them. They will hook you up with everything you need. And if you're not sure what you need, call them. They will help you. They know what they're talking about. There's a reason that Warsenal is hand in hand with Corvus Belli at all the booths at all the cons.
Yep.
Those guys are in tight with each other, and it shows. They're good.
It's really cool when someone's that invested in their product,
Oh, yeah.
Or, the partnership that they may have selling the product that they do, because, it's sort of like lost are the days when you would go to the store and they would just know their things, like the mom and pop shop, oh yeah, no, I know all the proper hardware, that you're going to want to use for this particular project. Right. And the fact that you get that with a company nowadays, right. You just call them and be like, help, I don't know what to buy.
What do I do?
Yep.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're so good. In order to get started with Infinity N5, you're going to want to pick up one of the starter sets. There are actually 2 for the new N5. Now, none of these one of them contains rules, but these don't have rule books because the rules are available only online. They don't have a printed rule book, and they're not going to. They like to make the changes that they need to make, and it's easier to have that as a digital distribution. So go download the rulebook, which is really good. And then the new set that they just put out is called Operation Sandtrap.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, you get 14 minis. 7 of them are JSA, which is the Japanese
Secessionist Army.
Successionist. Thank you. I couldn't think of the middle word. Army. And the others are Pano-Oceania, which is the Australian-based. In the lore, it's started in Australia and spread to all over the North Americas. And, it became the monetary powerhouse of the faction. They're the ones with all the cash and all the planets and all the cool stuff. No, it's not true.
No,
Everybody
definitely
has
not.
cool stuff.
Everything has cool stuff.
Yeah.
Every faction has cool
Oh,
stuff.
God, don't they, though? And so in the Operation Sandtrap, you get a ready-to-play double-sided printed Akashi site cardboard. Okay, the game mat. And then the cardboard scenery. Now, when I say cardboard scenery, get it out of your mind the old days of crappy cardboard. Looks like an old, Japanese takeout box with some painting on it. No, these are amazingly good cardboard scenery that a lot of people use as tournament tables.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
they're gorgeous and they're completely functional because they come with the game. Hello. But you get 5 buildings, 4 generators, 5 connectors, so enough for a small game. Of course, you get a game mat. You get 6 20-sided dice. Now, the difference with the Sandtrap dice is these dice are themed, logo dice. 3 of them for Pan-Oceania, 3 of them for JSA. And by the way, those 3 dice are pretty close to what you'll ever need.
Yeah.
I bought some Baronet dice because I'm an idiot. But yeah, you'll have the dice you need to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all the cardboard markers, templates, and all the other stuff you need, a measuring tool. But if you don't have a measuring tool, why are you listening to us? You're not into this hobby. Oh, you're gatekeeping again. Okay, stop it. So the Operation Sandtrap is a really great thing to get into. There's also the Infinity Essentials box, which is be careful when you're buying Essentials boxes. These are replacing the old Code 1 stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is a box called Infinity Essentials, which is the one I'm talking about here. And then they're going to come out with Faction Essential boxes,
Yep.
which are going to replace the action packs. So you'll learn more about that here in a second.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the Essential box has basically everything you need to get into the game at a very small level, but you will get a solid foundation in how to play the game and how it expands from there. What you get are 6 classic miniatures. So the miniatures that came with Sandtrap are all new.
Yes.
They're brand new sculpts. These are repurposed older sculpts, which incidentally you're going to need if you follow up with any of the Sandtrap factions. You're going to want these.
Yep.
Just saying. Everything in here is, of course, beginner friendly. You get a small terrain set, so it is a much smaller box, but you do get terrain that fits in just perfectly with the Sandtrap terrain.
Who would have thought?
Who'd have thunk it? A very affordable price point, and you get, go figure, 60/20s, faction specific for JSA and Pano. So it is a great, if you are looking for that Christmas Day entry into Infinity and you just want to get a feeling for how this is going to go, get the Infinity Essentials box and you will be playing the game as soon as you get the super glue out and put the models together. So
Yeah, and I think a great thing to do here is with any of starter sets, if you and a friend of yours both want to get into it, and one of you is taken with one faction and the other one's a freaking weeb and likes all the anime, then they can get JSA and you can get Pano.
okay. Right about now, we're ending the show. He's talking directly to me, by the way.
No, come on. I bought JSA. Yeah, but if you go in on both boxes with a friend, right? Because you're like, I have no interest in Pano, but I really like the samurai hat on this guy.
Yep.
Then you can split her right down the middle.
Yeah.
Right? One of you will have to, you'll take turns with custody of the terrain.
Of the terrain, yeah.
Yeah. But then you come in at a really good price point, right?
Yes.
right down the middle. You're going to get, the full expansion. So you start small. You start with your essentials pack. Hey, let's just 3 models against 3 models, right? Okay, great. That was really fun. I think we're getting the hang of it. All right, cool. We're going to jump into Sand Trap and use the 7 models there, right? Get a few games in there. All right, this is awesome. Put them together. You're playing full N5.
Yes,
right.
You are going crazy. And you are adding as much or as little of the expanded rules as you want.
Yep.
So all those people that say Infinity is too hard, it's not.
Yeah, the quick start rules that they provided, they're in the Essentials box, but they're also online. 20 pages.
Yeah.
That's it. And it's very straightforward, and it helps you break it down. It does not go into nuance, right? But it gives you the step-by-step process for everything.
Yes.
Including what I thought was a really good explanation of AROs, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really great explanation because before we're sort of like, when does this happen?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that more in a second. But great starting products.
Yes.
This is your way in. This is not what I did in the game. I was
or
like,
me. Yeah.
hey, I'm just going to buy all that steel phalanx. Let's do this.
I bought a Nomads collector's edition box and a, what's his name? Pano.
Massive Pano box. Didn't you get a massive one?
Yeah, the big one.
Yeah.
27 models.
Jeebus.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah, went a little over the top, but it's fun.
But hey, you've got Pano now.
A lot of it, yeah.
You got a lot of Pano, and you got the new models too from Sand Trap. Boom. But, this is a great way to get in, and these, now JSA, they weren't a major faction in N4.
Right.
Now they are
sectorial.
Yeah, at all. They were just like other factions if you're looking in the army builder. Now they're a full 43 model faction with sectorials, right?
Yes.
So they're here now, right? What was sort of like a fun, kitschy army before is now an actual force. And I don't know how they play yet specifically, but I'm glad that they expanded them that way, because they're pretty popular for, all us nerds who like, the Japanese influence.
And yeah, they have a really great aesthetic and having been tied into other, it didn't give them the design space they needed.
Yeah.
So, but now, one of the big changes from N4 to N5 has been the way the world is broken down. You have the 7 major factions, and then underneath those were sectorials.
Yeah.
Which is how you differentiated your units and how you built your armies. You could build main Pano, or you could go military orders. You could go this way, that way, the other way. Same thing with Aleph, and you could go steel phalanx. You could do all these other O12. You could go into half a dozen sectorials, which were all lore based.
Yep.
And untenable from a game design standpoint.
Right.
And so Corvus Belli said, here's the deal. We're going to come back. We're going to downsize all of these factions. The key to having sectorials before was the ability to use fire teams, which was locked out of the main factions. Factions couldn't use fire teams. So now they've rewritten all the rules, streamlined everything, and each faction now has 3 sectorials.
Yeah.
So that you can get the flavor that you want. Your old models still work somewhere within your faction, and it doesn't matter what you're playing, you can still have access to your old kill teams. So even if the sectorial that you were playing was blown up, it will have almost no effect on you going forward. So really great decisions on their part.
Yeah, I think that this was such a good idea because there was bloat, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so much bloat when it comes to the sectorials, because some, like gosh, I can't remember which one it is. The faction that's all like Earth armies, you got
It's
the Russians.
Ariadna.
Yeah. Like every country is represented by a different sectorial,
Yep.
That complicates things.
And add on to that, they had werewolves. So they had a thing.
That's the coolest part of Ariadna.
It was.
Period. If I ever play
still
them,
is.
that's what I'm doing.
Oh, so hardcore.
Yeah.
Yes.
It becomes too much. And one of the things that actually happened quite a bit is that, they would call it vanilla forms of the army. So like vanilla Aleph or, vanilla Pano, right?
Yep.
They would have access to like everything.
Yes.
And that made it so oftentimes folks didn't do some of the sectorials in like the competitive scene, They're like, nope, we're sticking with vanilla because vanilla Aleph was real powerful for a long time.
Yeah, because we need this.
Yeah. Yep. And so now they're differentiating it. So like the quote vanilla sectorial, right, has its own identity separate from steel phalanx. So there's there's Aleph, and you have access to certain models in Aleph, and then Steel Phalanx, you have access to certain models in Steel Phalanx, but they don't necessarily cross over the same ways they were before, and so you get a lessening of the number of sectorials and complexity there, but an enriching and a stronger identity through them.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful thing, and because of the way the rules are approached, which is the next segment of getting started, is the rules. Rules are free online. You just go to the Corvus Belli site, you click on the downloads, and boom, you have your set of rules.
Yep.
There is also linked there the Infinity N5 Army Builder, which is completely free. Nothing's locked behind a paywall.
Yep.
Because they understand that you can sit in your house and build an army list and then go, oh God, I don't have that model. Let me go to the Corvus Belli site and buy that. So they understand how to make money.
It's also on an app on the phones.
Yes.
It's under Infinity Army.
Yes.
Specifically. And I just checked mine, last night in anticipation of the show. It's fully updated with all the rules changes.
Yep.
With all the different sectorials.
Cost changes and yep.
It's 100% there. And I was telling Bill earlier, my 300-point Steel Phalanx list was 229 points when I opened it back up. Because there have been some major changes because they were strongish, right?
Yeah.
They were just like tanks. Like it was so hard to just take them down. And, given enough time, they might be able to just, body you. But, there's a lot of interesting changes there, and it's very lore-based why they lost certain characters. Like, they don't have Achilles anymore.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that?
He went to the bad guys. Unless you play them, in which case you're the good guys. But, so all of the rules, everything you need to play the game is absolutely free online. The quick start rules are there if you don't want to buy the Infinity, or if you already have enough stuff and you don't want to buy the Essentials box. The quick start rules are there so you can basically co-opt a friend into playing and having a great time, because it is a good game. Don't let the complexity scare you. We were talking before the show started about how the complexity of N5 works. Once you understand AROs and how the game centers around, and AROs are basically your reactions during the opponent's turn, and how that all works together, once you grok that from the quick start rules, 90% of the game is out the door. Because at that point, when you run into something like, oh, this guy has infiltration, or this guy has this, you just look it up because it's linked in the app, and it's super simple. And it's most of that stuff is corner case. Now, when you get to start playing your competitive tournament stuff, you're going to have your head in the rule book constantly, but that's with any game.
Yeah, it's great how straightforward it is. In terms of just the base level of the game. Yep. I agree with Bill that AROs was the hardest thing for me to figure out. Like, when I was looking at N4, I was like, I don't understand, I think. The rule book was not very friendly either, that they had online. It was just sort of, wait, it says, oh, you'll learn about this later, but we're going to use the terminology now as if you need to know it. This is much more better.
Straightforward.
Yeah.
And the big thing to remember with AROs is AROs happen as the bad guy is doing, your opponent is doing his things. So even though he's going to complete his move, he's going to complete both of his actions, your AROs and his actions are going to go off at the same time. Yeah. Or hers, I'm sorry. The simultaneousness of it does lead to some weirdness, but just so you understand, and I think the easiest example is you have a guy sitting in an alley, and the enemy dashes or, runs where you don't see him at the beginning of his move. You don't see him at the end of his move, but he did move through your line of sight across the alley entrance. Yes, you can shoot at him, and you can whack him while he's there. Yep. And it will make him actually not complete his move. So it's a game that's very interactive. You're not taking a break when it's your enemy's turn, because that's where you're doing most of your work.
Yeah, I mean, think of your Call of Duties or your Battlefields or any game where you're in skirmish style combat. Yeah. If you see some guy, like an enemy running across the road, you can shoot at him. You don't have to sit there and like, all right, I can't do anything until he gets to that corner. Oh, now he's out of line of sight.
Can't see him. Dang.
No, it's meant to be like, it is ongoing combat constantly. Yeah. And I think with that sort of video game concept in mind, that's how I had to teach it to myself, is like, oh, okay, yeah, so I can see them now, so I'm going to pop shots, right? Yep. May not kill them, may only wing them, may kill him, may just knock him down. But either way, you know, you're still like taking those shots as they run by.
Yeah.
So
as far as to get into the lore of N5, there is one big source now, and that is the Corvus Belli Infinity N5 book. I thought it had a secondary title, but it's just book. And it does the complete catch up as to how we got to where we are now. And newsflash, if you're coming from a Games Workshop game, be prepared because the lore in this game moves forward constantly.
Yes.
The situations change, alliances change, motivation, they change sides sometimes. Lots of things change, and it's refreshing. It's very refreshing. Another source for lore is, of course, on the Corvus Belli website. They talk about the factions, and they give you, you know, the snippets and the breakdowns. You can learn quite a lot from that. There are 2 books that I would highly recommend that you pick up from the old N4 system. And keep in mind, these are lore books.
Yes.
There are rules in them that you're going to have to ignore, but not that many.
Yeah.
It's mostly lore. But the N-Song book covers how we went from the beginning of the the Infinity world to just before the drop of N5.
Yeah.
And all of the wars that are going on, and the basic premise of how and why combat occurs in these small skirmish sizes as opposed to huge battles. And then if you are into the narrative aspect, I would suggest getting the book called Daedalus's Fall. It's got lore, which will be recapped in N-Song, but it's still very good lore to read, fun. But it does have a campaign system for linking scenarios and having a ongoing effect of, you know, if these people get shot or this guy loses all of his armor, it will have an effect going into the next game.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you'll be X amount of points down, or you'll have to replace the really cool guy with a really generic guy. Those are I think the highlight books to get. They're still in print. The N4 book, which came as a rule book and a lore book, you can no longer get unless you're willing to pay a premium price somewhere. I was able to go to Imperial Outpost and pick it up for street price, which was awesome.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's if you buy it like eBay or something, prepare to pay a lot. As far as the hobbying aspects, we covered this already. It's metal models. You're going to have to clean them. You're going to have to scrub them with a little bit of dish soap and a old toothbrush or your wife's toothbrush, whatever. Or, you know, do what I do. Get yourself a cheap $35 ultrasonic cleaner. Drop them in there, turn it on, put the alcohol and water in there, and forget about it. And pull the models out, hit them with a blow dryer, and, you know, because it's metal, you can hit them with a blow dryer, and you're building. Yeah. So definitely suggest an ultrasonic cleaner for these things. But they are metal models, so cleaning flash is an experience. And, you know, I will always tell people that if you have files that you use for plastic models, get another set for metal models. Yeah. Because metal models beat the shit out of files. And unless you have a good file card and you know a lot about how to work files, they will wear them out. Yeah. And it will have an effect. If you just used a file on a metal model and then you turn around and use it on a plastic model, the effect will be probably disastrous as the little shards of metal that are in the file start cutting through your plastic model. Yep. So don't do that. Get separate files. You know, it's just a different approach to cleaning up the models. And honestly, the Corvus Belli models don't need a ton of cleanup. Some of the older ones do, but not anymore. And in the where to go from here, this is where we started. Now, where do you go? Yep. Well, the new Army Essential boxes we talked about, they're going to replace the things that are right now called action packs, booster packs, and reinforcement packs. Yeah. All the models in those packs are still in the game. They're as valid as they always are. And if your Essentials pack isn't announced yet, just go out and buy the action pack or, you know, the whatever models you need to make your army. And I would suggest making your army in the army builder first.
Oh yeah.
And then buy the models you want. Don't do the way I did. Buy every model and then build an army from that, and realize that you didn't get the ones you needed. So they also have, hero blisters. And as you learn the lore, you'll figure out what you want to get.
Yeah, it's some of the models are actually like a resin base, right?
Siocast.
Yeah. And those are generally your bigger models, right? Your mechs or
tags, yeah.
We call them tags, but but just so you know, like the big mechs, right? Or some bigger characters too.
Yeah.
What's his name? Ajax.
He's
Siocast. So some of those, because who wants to build a metal model that big?
Yeah, that's huge.
Oh God, I couldn't even imagine. But so fortunately, they do have some mixed mediums, so to speak, and so similar process to just resin for that, right? Don't have to go through a lot of the stuff you have to do with the metal models. But I got to say, when putting together these models, last time, Bill and I were starting to get in before we pulled back. I had never really built metal models before. I think I built one, and it was a disaster. It was the original Penitent engine.
Oh God!
That thing is like, it's 5 pounds of metal on like 2 legs with ball joints. It's so bad.
Horrible.
But these models, like once you get used to unsticking your fingers a whole bunch of times, they go together really well.
Yep.
As long as you just take the time to clean them, and they look beautiful. They have so much detail that you wouldn't think a metal model would.
Yeah, no, these are not GW metal models. Mm-mm. These are really well designed, well sculpted, gorgeous models. And they pride themselves on going together with 3, maybe 4 parts. Yeah. One thing that bugs me is that they still have separate arms. I understand that the undercuts, in a spin model and a spin mold are really hard to accomplish. Mm-hmm. But God, those spindly little arms on some of the female characters, oh my Lord, they're such a pain to get correct. But Corvus Belli understands how metal models go together, and they make it as easy as possible. So just stick with it, keep test fitting, keep dry fitting. You will see where it snaps into place eventually. It's there. And, again, they don't put instructions with any of their models. You can't go online and look for how to put this together, because it is reasonably brainless. Mm-hmm. It's, that thing has a hexagon peg, and this is the only piece that has a hexagon. It probably goes there. Yeah, it does.
The cleaning's the least fun.
Yeah.
But it becomes a fairly enjoyable process when you start putting them together.
Yeah.
And, as with anything involving super glue, you want, your accelerants, right?
Yep.
Whether there's simply like a little dab of baking soda, right? Or what have you. But one thing too is if you have the GW articulating arms, to help you build, that's very helpful just to keep it in place while it dries. That way you can set it down, walk away, and not have to worry about holding it and shaking.
Yes.
And then realizing you got more super glue on your fingers than you did on the arm, so then it rips off, and then you're like,
and it's stuck to your thumbnail. Oh,
yeah.
God dang it. Yes.
Yeah, you'll learn that super glue is really only super when it involves your skin.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's
average glue. But that's basically how to get started with N5. It's a lot of fun. Trust me, you'll enjoy the heck out of it. Mm-hmm. Infinity, it is a complex game. And if you start looking through the rule book and going, oh my God, I can't learn all of this stuff, just look at how they've worded everything. Everything is a module. Mm-hmm. You don't have to play with all of the different modules.
Yep.
You can add them as you see fit. Mm-hmm. And it makes it to where you can make it as complex as you want it to be. If you just want to sit down and play a fun, really interactive skirmish game with a friend, you can get by with the core rules for quite some time.
Oh, totally. And that's the thing is, if you never play an army where infiltration matters, like if you and your friend don't have any models that involve that, then that rule is just not there.
Yeah, it will never affect your gameplay. Yeah. Same thing with some of the weird hacking stuff, which is a incredibly complex part of the game. If you don't play with it, that complexity is never there. I will say that hacking is a ton of the fun
Oh, it's so
of
cool.
the game, because I mean, you are in the setting is a very cyberpunk,
Oh yeah.
or cyber heavy. I don't want to say punk, but cyber heavy environment. And, you know, part of some of the weaknesses of some of the more powerful characters are the fact that they're vulnerable to being hacked. So not using the hacking module would be bad, especially if you're a nomad, because you'll just die. But, you know, it's your most powerful units are also the most vulnerable to being taken over by the enemy.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, you can put nothing but these big expensive tags in your army, and yes, they will kill anything they aim at, right up until the hacker comes up and says, you belong to me now, and I will run you, I will shoot you.
Well, most of the time hacking too, you don't need to be visible to get the hack off. So you got these big tags rampaging around, and you just got this tiny little girl with her little computer on her arm, hiding in a building, and then the giant robot.
Yeah. She can't be seen. She's got a repeater halfway across the board. So she's literally screwing up your day from a mile away, and a game mile away. Yeah. And it's just the game is fun, and delving into its complexities is really, really fun. You can play a flat out, I'm going to be Ariadna, just strike force, and all I do is move and shoot. Mm-hmm. And I do it really, really well. Or, a Pano military order, I'm here to get in your face and slice your head off with my really big sword. Mm-hmm. And that's easy ways to play. And it functions real well, even up against the most high-tech armies that have, Mimetism 6 and stealth and cloaking. Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of ways to find those things and kill them. You have to survive anyway, play the game. It's fun.
It's really, really fun. Really fun. And so I just want to kind of comment back on their terrain. Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Like, absolutely amazing. They transfer that over to Warcrow as well.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, I see you're building over here, Bill.
Yeah.
Bill got a little 3D printing happy once we started getting into Infinity.
I printed out a table's worth of stuff. Oh my God, that's a drop in the bucket.
One thing I'd recommend is go watch Ash on Gorilla.
Yes.
He did this amazing video where he built a board like super quick for Infinity, and he used a lot of that terrain because it's so good. It's high quality, and it just looks good too visually, and especially with this game where you can even go in and out of buildings.
Oh yeah.
When those types of pieces of terrain are on the field, it has full decal and design inside. It's beautiful. You want to play it.
Yep.
So if you can get your hands on some of that stuff, not just the stuff in the box, the essentials and the sand trap, but any of the other stuff that they put out before, you are buying quality product.
Yes. The paper terrain, or the card terrain. Now, I will say that when you go back too far in time, it used to be shit. It used to be bad. Now it's really, really good. And you'll see the sets that are junk are usually not for sale anymore.
Correct.
The ones that are available are the heavy card stock. Mm-hmm. They go together brilliantly, and Ash shows you how to edge mark all of the, you just grab a Sharpie and edge mark all of the stuff so that it doesn't look like cardboard anymore. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a gorgeous table.
Yes.
It really does become a gorgeous table. So that's our Infinity getting started. It's a lot more approachable than you might think. The initial learning curve is going to be high. Mm-hmm. But you will reach that plateau really, really quickly once you understand face-to-face dice rolls, AROs. Once you have that down, the rest of the game is super easy, and a lot of it never comes up.
Yeah.
It's a lot like, some of the esoteric rules in 40K. If you don't have units that do those things, you don't worry about it. It's not there. So.
Yeah, and this is just, sort of, well, not our exact process, but having tried to get started in N4 and then sort of like, hold on, pump the brakes, let's re-engage in N5. This is sort of like our oops, we tripped before. This is how we are getting started now, and how we recommend you try to get started. But if you have any other recommendations, if you played Infinity before, or if you're just getting into it that you found was beneficial to you, please
Yeah.
let's have that conversation on the Discord.
Yep. Hit it up.
Let us know. I mean, we definitely want comments on our stuff, because that's how we get better.
Yes.
Because sometimes a comment takes you from an AOS only show to
It's literally what happened. We're going to take a quick break and determine where we go from here.
Bye-bye, boys.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
It would take a miracle. Bye-bye.
Okay, so it's now time for us to step away and close the show out. And I think we should probably talk about what we're going to talk about in the future.
Yeah.
So that we can rehash the same old crap. No.
Yeah, so what Bill and I are really excited about moving forward is our pure AOS coverage. I mean, with so many games, right? And you kind of heard us already starting to like touch, a bunch of stuff throughout the episode, right? And these are the things we're excited for. The game systems we want to engage with, for the main show. There's going to be a lot more going on for the After Dark folks as well. Yeah. So I would encourage you to join us there, because we're going to have a lot of fun in those After Darks.
For as little as $1. Just as little as $1.
10 cents a day. So
you can feed the starving gamer.
Think of the children.
Yeah.
Think of the children. But everything we talked about, we're big fans of Conquest. Obviously, we're going balls out for Infinity right now.
Yeah.
We're just so stoked about it. But even other things that were only peripheral before, like Nuka World Faction, right?
Yeah.
The Fallout game.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
A lot more Trench Crusade coming up. I mean, I'm going to talk about it till I'm blue in the face, because I can't remember the last time I was this hyped about a game, particularly a skirmish game.
I love that.
It's just, we'll talk about it more as we move forward. But Bill's going to teach me BattleTech.
Yes, I am.
Start with the Alpha Strike, because, I can't math very well. And then he'll teach me the other stuff.
Yeah.
We'll get into the bigger game. We've got some hyper fixations. We'll also talk a little bit about, talked about Magic before, right?
Yeah.
That's a hobby in and of itself, just card collecting and building decks. So we're going to touch all that stuff we like to do, because, we've been known to have a little hobby ADHD.
You're going to hear Frostgrave, Stargrave, 5 parsecs from home, 5 leagues from the hinterlands. You're going to hear about all those weird indie games that are so good that they need to get some exposure, and we're going to expose them. It'll be fun. Trust me. We're going to play Halo Flashpoint one of these days just for giggles.
Yeah.
Just so that we can tell you either how cool it was or how it really needs work. So
if you didn't like Halo, you won't like this.
I've played one game, over there at the store, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And I cannot speak to the depth of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure that I'm going to sit there and detail paint all of these models. I thought it was really interesting when Ash and what's his name was covering it on Gorilla. Mm-hmm. He talked about how there's very diminishing returns on those models. Once you've primed them and hit them with a speed paint and picked out a few details, after that, there's nothing really left to do. Mm-hmm. You can get crazy. You can get, Golden Demon style paint jobs off of these things, but the diminishing returns is, to me, the key here.
Yeah.
Why do that for a game that is this simple? I would save that sort of detail work for Kill Team and Infinity and Conquest and Warcrow and things like that. Yeah, you're going to hear about Warcrow. Trust me, you're going to hear about Warcrow. So I am going into full-scale production probably in the next couple of weeks, getting all those models built and painted so that we can play a game and just, it's a fun game. It's a blast. The problems with the N5 release have really kicked the Warcrow releases in the butt, but it's coming and it's a great game. Trust me, the lore is so good. But anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap it up here. We're going to tell you what we're going to talk about in After Dark. In After Dark, we are going to open up a couple of, because I bought some mystery packs.
Yeah.
And these are from Parabellum, and they are cute little alternative models for Conquest. And they are, you'll hear more about them. They're basically all the different mainline infantry type basic models turned into fish. Turned into some version of a fish.
Yeah.
So
you may recall back if you listened to Rolling Bad back then, but I got the Kraken, the little guy, and it's like its own little mini game and stuff. It's all just like fish goblins, replacing things. It's super fun. But we're gonna crack open a couple of these mystery packs,
and they're blind box, so we don't know what we're gonna get. So that'll be fun. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the other reason for leaving the GW specific Ecosphere behind, which is the Grimdark isn't that much fun anymore.
Yeah.
We'll hit that. We're going to talk about the computer games we've been playing and what our latest fixations are and a lot of other things in the After Dark section.
Yep.
So join up, give us $1 a month. You can hear more of the same, maybe a little more in depth, maybe a little more topical, a lot more ranty, and
a lot more cuss words.
Edgy. It'll be edgy.
Edgy.
Yeah. So, and keep in mind that going forward, Patreons are going to see all the videos first. They're going to see anything that we produce is probably going to go to Patreon first.
Yes.
And other than the main show, obviously. So that's my pitch for please help me pay for all this equipment. So I hope you guys enjoy where we're going, what we're going to cover. If you have suggestions for games for us to get into, look at, maybe feature. I think in the next one, I don't know what we're going to feature. We'll figure that one out and we'll let it be known on the Discord. The Discord is free to join, by the way. That's not behind a paywall.
Of course.
So just feel free to jump in and tell us how stupid we are for jumping away from AOS. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm really excited for, the re-engagement with the journey and us being able to touch and play all the things that we wanted to for so long. Unhindered, as it were. But a lot more to come and a lot more spicy discussion, becoming After Dark. But we want to thank you all for either joining us on this journey or coming back to keep moving along.
The Albuquerque Narrative Gamers Podcast, or Anger Podcast, is protected under the Creative Commons license. You can find information for this at creativecommons.org. Information and links about the show's topics will be in the show notes, as will any other copyright information that needs to be presented.